I played 20 hours of the finals to find out whether a new player can not only survive, but thrive in what people are calling an upcoming pro shooter. Join me as I discover what happens when you combine a destructible environment with high octane combat and movement. Right away, I gave myself 2 goals: unravel what the finals has to offer, and work out what kind of playstyle I was going to take on. However, after finding out about how hectic this game can get, I began to get a little bit worried about whether or not I could actually keep up. But there's no point in crying about it. So I booted up the game and, okay, wait, hold on. Dropping into the game, you'll have 3 characters to pick from: the light, medium, and heavy, each catering towards a different playstyle. You'll also have 3 gamers to pick from, with that being Quick Cash, Banquet, and the newly added Power Shift. Although I recorded most of this in Season 1, so I didn't get that option. If you played before and would like to leave advice for anyone that might need it, then drop a comment down below. So, feeling pretty eager to begin learning, I loaded up the training to give the 3 different characters a go, played around with the abilities and gadgets they have, and eventually found that I resonated with the light build the most. Their abilities revolve around movement, which if you know me, you'll know is right up my alley. Okay, great, we've already figured that out, but there was one problem. At the beginning, you only have the medium unlocked, meaning I'd have to play 2 games before I could even unlock the light. After realizing this, I went and got a better feel for the medium and prepared to jump into the fray. The game mode you begin with is called Quick Cash. You're in a 3v3v3, where teams are rushing to collect a vault and cash it out. You need 2 to win. Having taken a few hours beforehand to learn the game, I felt pretty ready. But I began to wonder, can a noob like me even survive, let alone thrive in this game that people have been hailing the next big pro shooter? Well, there was no doubt in my mind that after all my training, I'd be ready for the challenges ahead. That wasn't until I hopped into my first game and quickly got a reality check. The verticality of the map blew me away and had me running around for a while like a headless chicken, having no clue where to go or where anyone was. However, after a while of feeling like an idiot, I ended up finding my team in a predicament. Without a second thought, I rushed to help them and somehow managed to get my first ever kill. Although my joy was short-lived, as it was quickly followed by the most laughable fight I've ever had.
Deploying jump pad.
I used my limited knowledge of goo, a material that has a lot of versatility, to evade a 2v1. Only to then get blown up without having any clue as to what happened. The following few minutes of the game went as expected. I died a lot, got some questionable kills, and found out the positives and negatives of a destructible environment. But despite how much of an amateur I felt like, to my surprise, we ended up winning my first ever game. To be honest, I felt a bit overwhelmed initially, but I'd already mentally prepared to learn a lot, so the win only got me pumped, wondering if I could keep the momentum going and get another win, or whether that was just beginner's luck. Well, there was only one way to find out. I loaded up the newly unlocked game mode, Banquet, and went in guns blazing. Right away, I realized 2 things. 1, the gunplay was taking me a bit to get accustomed to, although having only really played Apex for the last 100 years, I can understand why. But as well, I was getting hit with a lot of lag. Was it the map? Was it poor optimization? Whatever it was affecting my gameplay. So I did what most players could never and turned my settings down to low. But this didn't really seem to get rid of the lag, although it didn't stop me from flanking my enemy and getting a triple kill, which then led me to taking all of their money and cashing in 19,000, which put my team into the lead. My teammate and I were in a final push to cash the remaining money, and after kicking around for long enough, we managed to win the 2nd game in a row. That's 2 for 2. My first impressions so far were really good. Other than the lag and me not being able to shoot properly, the game felt very fluid. The environment was always changing and the movement complemented it as well. But I couldn't help but wonder if these very features that made the game so fun would also prove to be its most difficult aspect for new players to learn. It had me intrigued, so I continued on to find out. After a pretty good first hour, I finally unlocked the light. I spent a lot of time just getting a feel for the abilities and flowing the movement together. Even my gunplay seemed to be improving, although I still wasn't great at knowing what to focus on in-game. But over time, I began to realize what all the hype surrounding this game was actually about. There was one moment in particular that opened my eyes to just how hectic, but also thrilling this game could be. Alright, picture this. Your teammates both need reviving. There are invisible enemies coming from all directions, and all you have are a few dashes and your willpower. It's a lot to handle. Did you notice how dynamic a fight can be? The feature that allows you to pick up and move objects similar to how you can in Garry's mod opens up a lot of potential for counterplay. Watch how I moved my teammate's statue and brought it over to an area I thought was hidden enough, until not one, but two invisible enemies try and interrupt me. Then, having no clue where to go, I broke open this vent and managed to get the counter on the guy following me. There is a very strong feeling of satisfaction when you're backed into a corner and manage to outplay your way out of certain death. After this game, I was a lot more motivated to learn the mechanics and made it my goal to improve. I wanted to properly try and learn how to play, so I studied gameplay, learned some new movement, and within no time, felt a lot more ready than before. My gunplay had a lot of work to be done, but my specialty, movement, was starting to really shine through. The opportunity for creativity is wild, and really goes to show how much of a difference learning a little bit extra can make.
In the spotlight.
Money may not grow on trees, but a new vault just appeared in the arena.
Admittedly, my aim still has work to be done, but what's incredible here is how much room I had for repositioning and replanning. Like here, how I kill two of the enemies, hit the objective, and then make a hasty retreat to the floor above and take a different angle. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel like a ninja right there. As you can see, by now I'd gotten a good idea of what the game had to offer. I felt that by now I felt comfortable with the flow of the finals. It truly felt like I was beginning to understand the game. For a while anyway. By this point I was nearing the end of the 20 hours. It was great to realize that the goal I'd set at the start to thrive rather than merely survive was starting to become a reality. I was able to win engagements more frequently than before, whether that be by killing the enemies I'm against or by getting away and rethinking my plan. So having come this far, what features make the finals stand out from other games? There are three I want to highlight that will distinguish it from other titles you'd consider competition, like Apex Legends, Valorant, and Battlefield to name a few. Well, you realize that there is one common benefit every feature provides. Try to see if you can work out what it might be. I'm also going to go over one flaw that could be the deciding factor as to how well the game performs long term. The first point should be obvious, but the destructible environment. I would love if more games allowed you to destroy near enough everything in your way and completely change the map throughout the course of a match. It keeps the flow dynamic and unpredictable, as your plan can be halted by somebody blowing up the ground you walk on. Literally. You can blow up the ground below the objective and completely change the location of it. I know there are games where destruction plays a big part, like in Battlefield, Siege, and not to forget the GOAT, Minecraft, and it works really well in all of them, but the flow is completely different. Partially due to the map size and the finals, but also because of how the abilities and movement work in synergy with the ever-changing environment, and allow you to get really creative with how you play. Which leads me on to point number 2, the abilities, gadgets, and movement. Obviously, I mainly played the light, so there's a lot of bias in terms of what kind of playthrough I had due to movement being the focus. But the abilities and all the builds show a lot of promise, and as mentioned before, synergy with the dynamic environment. While you can't run up the wall or tap strafe like in Apex Legends, the finals has its own movement, such as window hopping, which allows you to climb up to the top of a building in no time at all. There's also the abilities on the light which make up for it as well, with the grappling hook being able to launch you over and around buildings that are in your way, or the evasive dash allowing you to maneuver in and out of areas quickly. As for the heavy and the medium, all of their abilities provide strong utility, with the heavy having a big shield for full frontal coverage or a charge that can go directly through any enemy or building in your way, allowing it to be good for both offensive and defensive players. Then you have the healing beam from the medium build, which is really effective at getting your team through those tough fights. Not to forget that the medium can equip a jump pad, which is a very versatile tool for movement. The abilities don't feel like they impact the flow of the game more than it should, which is good, as not being able to balance abilities and having natural skill be the primary factor behind whether you win or lose is one of the most important goals a game like this should have. And the third impactful feature only reinforces this, with that being the fact you can pick up near enough every item in the map. How many games allow you to pick up and control items to gain an advantage in a hectic but dynamic battlefield like this? It was when I realized that you can move your teammate's statue that I saw the true potential in how much counterplay this can open up. You've seen it before in games like Gmod, but when you're using it to get your teammate to a safe location so you can try and get off a clutch revive, or to try and throw off an enemy so you can make an escape, then it really starts to highlight how creative you can get. Now, did you work out the one common factor? If you're able to, or if you've thought of anything else, then comment down below. But what makes it different to other shooters in a similar genre is how dynamic each game can be. With how the movement, destructibility, weapons, and features work in tandem with one another, it allows players to get really creative, and I imagine if people truly applied their knowledge and their team play, then the finals are looking like it will have a very good future. However, something that does worry me is how well they can keep the hectic battlefield well balanced long term. I found myself being caught on crossfire a lot, which can be a problem that games have when they add too much content and don't bother balancing what's already in the game. The finals is a lot going on, and while that may be what helps it at the moment, I do question whether this will hinder it long term. Will they keep adding new and crazy ways to destroy and manipulate the battlefield around you, or will they just work on optimizing what we already have? Let me know what you think down below. After playing through 20 hours of the finals, starting out as a complete noob and working up to where I am now, I can safely say that I feel very comfortable with the flow of the game and have quite clearly made noticeable progress. I've been able to thrive in a competitive environment, proving that all it takes is the willingness to learn. There's a lot that this game provides that other games don't, and while there may be a learning curve, I've personally found it enjoyable. But with all that said, do I think the finals will be the next big pro shooter? And do I recommend it to new players? Well, the player base has definitely taken a big hit from when it first launched. From what I've heard, the developers Embark are doing weekly updates and actually communicating with the community. They've also quite notably not done much marketing at all, meaning while the game had exposure to begin with, they allowed that initial figure to drop and didn't really bother trying to bring it back up. I do however believe that when they start doing proper marketing, this game could see another boom in player count. And with all the features this game has that allows for creativity and a wide variety of playstyles, it definitely wouldn't surprise me if it did become a pro shooter. There's a good chance we're going to see a lot of games take inspiration from the finals, and hopefully we'll get to see destructible and dynamic environments more often, as I really enjoyed this feature. If you're someone who enjoys this type of fast-paced gameplay, then I definitely recommend it. But ultimately, whether the finals is for you is down to what kind of playstyle you prefer and how willing you are to take the time to learn it. But if you did want to get into the finals, then consider checking out my beginner's guide to help get you going. If there are any other games you want to see me play, then comment down below. But until next time, thanks for watching.